Hello student, welcome all of you to massive open online course on Indian economy. Today I am going to discuss the module entitled Multidimensional Poverty Index in India vis-a-vis other countries of the world. After completion of this module, you are able to learn the trends of multidimensional poverty index in India as well as the trend of the multidimensional poverty index in other countries of the globe. You will also able to understand the methods of the measurement of the multidimensional poverty index. The module consists with 5 sections. Section 1 introduces the background of the multidimensional poverty index. Section 2 deals with the trends of the multidimensional poverty index in India. And before discussing the trend, we will discuss how we can measure it. And section 3 describes the trend of the multidimensional poverty in India in comparison with other countries. And final section is the conclusion where we will make some concluding observations. Multidimensional poverty index is a very key resource to understand the extent of multidimensional poverty in more than 110 countries of the globe. This multidimensional poverty index was developed by Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative of University of Oxford. And this measurement is based on a particular methodology that is developed by Alkire and Foster. This MPI was first used in the UNDP flagship report of Human Development Report in the year 2010. That is, in the year 2010, Human Development Report of UNDP was first introduced this multidimensional poverty index to understand the nature of development and underdevelopment across different countries, along with Human Development Index side by side other indicators. And the basic features of this multidimensional poverty index is related with the dimension that are considered to measure the multidimensional poverty. In this measurement, they have considered 3 dimensions: education, health, and standard of living. Not only that, in case of multidimensional poverty index, these 3 dimension also consists with a number of indicators, and these information are available for all households or individual. Otherwise, we are not able to measure the multidimensional poverty index. Therefore, UNDP only able to measure the multidimensional poverty index of 110 countries of the world. And side by side, it is also true that to measure the multidimensional poverty index, all information are available in the same survey, and it is based on the micro level data. This multidimensional poverty index is also distinct from the Human Development Index. Human Development Index is a standard measure of the development and underdevelopment aspects of different countries of the globe that was introduced in 1980s in the Human Development Report. But there are some differences in between multidimensional poverty index and Human Development Index. It is true that the 3 dimensions are the same in these 2 measurements, that is education, health, and standard of living. These are the 3 dimensions in Human Development Index as well as in the multidimensional poverty index. But Human Development Index is based on the aggregate data. It is the aggregate measurement. On the basis of the aggregate value of different indicators across different countries, UNDP measures the Human Development Index. Whereas multidimensional poverty index is measured on the basis of disaggregate level of data, that is, on the basis of the information of the household and individual specific data. Side by side, this Human Development Index is mainly determined by these 3 dimensions. That is true, but among these 3 dimensions, the per capita income is highly related with the Human Development Index. Some of the researchers argued that Human Development Index is biased in favor of the per capita income. But per capita income is not the true measure of the development. Whereas in case of the multidimensional poverty index, it is not related with the per capita income. On the basis of the achievement of different indicators across different dimension, they measured the multidimensional poverty index. Therefore, some of the researchers argued that multidimensional poverty index is better able to reflect the well-being of the people in comparison with the human development index. Now we come to the measurement of the multidimensional poverty index. A multidimensional poverty index is actually the deprivation based measurement, and it is based on the capability approach of the AKSN. In this approach, they have considered three dimensions: health, education and standard of living, and this three dimension consists with 10 indicators. On the basis of the available information of the 10 indicators across different household in a particular year in a particular country, we can able to understand at what extent the household is able to achieve in respect of the different indicators. And after calculating the achievement of the household, we will calculate the deprivation, then aggregate deprivation score, and finally the multidimensional poverty index. These figures help us to understand the composition or structure of the multidimensional poverty index. This multidimensional poverty index consists with three dimensions: health, education and standard of living. Health dimension consists with two indicators. One is malnutrition and another is child mortality rate. Similarly, the education dimension also consists with two indicators. One is school attendance and another is school attendance and year of schooling. These are the two indicators of education dimension. In case of standard of living dimension, it consists with as many as 6 indicators: asset, electricity, housing, cooking fuel, sanitation, drinking water. These are the indicators under standard of living dimension. And different dimension also attached with some weights. In their methodology, Alcaire and Foster, they have considered equal weights for the different dimension. There are three dimensions, therefore the weights of each dimension is 1/3, 1/3 and 1/3. In percentage form, it is 33.33%. Within the dimension, the indicators are also equally weighted. In case of health dimension, there are two indicators, therefore the weight of each of the indicator is 1/3/2, that is 1/6. Similarly, the weight of the indicators under education is also 1/6 and 1/6. Whereas in case of standard of living dimension, that consists with 6 indicators, therefore the weight of particular indicator is 1/3 divided by 6, that is 1/18. Therefore, the weight of cooking fuel, sanitation, drinking water, electricity, housing and assets attached with the weight 1/18. In this figure, the numerical value within the brackets indicates the weight of the different indicators. Now the methodology of the measurement of this multidimensional poverty index. First of here we try to understand the achievement of the household in respect of these 10 indicators, and the available information of all household in a country in these 10 indicators is treated as the achievement matrix. And each of the indicator also attached with a threshold value by which we can understand whether the household is deprived or not in this particular indicator. If the household is deprived in this particular indicator, then we have assigned a score 1. If the household is not deprived, then we can say that we can assign the value 0. For example, if the household having safe drinking water, then she is not deprived in the drinking water indicators, we have assigned value 0. If the household is deprived in the safe drinking water, then we have assigned the value 1. Therefore, after the transformation of the achievement score into the deprivation score, the final matrix is called the deprivation matrix, and all elements of the deprivation matrix consist with the value 1 and 0. 1 means deprived, 0 means non-deprived. Here this particular matrix, which is denoted by x11, x12, xnd, are treated as the achievement matrix denoted by x matrix. Here x11 means the achievement of the household 1 in the first indicator. Similarly, x12 means achievement of the first household in the second indicator, and so on. And here some of the achievement are in the red color. Red color means the household is deprived in this particular indicator. That is, here Z is the deprivation matrix. That means Z1 is the threshold value. If the achievement in a particular indicator is lower than the Z1, then the household is deprived. Otherwise, he is not deprived. Therefore, here x12 and x22, these two values of first and second household are lower than the threshold value of the second indicator Z2. We marked it in the red color. And this achievement matrix transformed into the deprivation matrix, where the red color achievement value is treated as 1. 1 means they are deprived, and all other values are treated as the 0. Therefore, deprivation matrix consists with the values of 0 and 1. Now we come to the weight. Each of the indicator is attached with the weight. Here you consider equal weight for different dimension and equal weight for different indicator within the dimension. And we have multiplied this weight into the this deprivation matrix. This is the deprivation matrix, which is consists with the element 0 and 1, and each of the dimension consists with specific weights, say W1, W2, W3, WD. These are the weights for D number of indicators. In our present example, number of indicators are the 10. When we multiplied this deprivation matrix with the weight vector, we will find the total deprivation score of the household. Ci is the total deprivation score of the ith household. Total deprivation score of the ith household is actually the weighted deprivation of different indicators, and this is denoted by Ci. The value of Ci across the household varies from 0 to 100. 0 means not deprived, and 100 means the household is deprived in all the indicators. Therefore, as the Ci increases, the level of deprivation is gradually increases. After calculating this Ci, that is aggregate deprivation score, we considered the concept of the poverty line. In case of multidimensional poverty index, here we have considered 33.33 is the threshold value to distinguish between multidimensionally poor and multidimensionally non-poor people. Here we consider 33.33% is the deprivation score, because the concept is multidimensional. Therefore, a household is deprived in more than one dimension, then the deprivation score is 33.33. As we considered that the deprivation score of each of the indicator is 33.33, 33.33, 33.33, total equal to say 100. Therefore, multiple deprivation means, or multidimensional deprivation means, the household is deprived in more than one dimension. Accordingly, the deprivation score for multidimensional poverty is more than 33.33. This 33.33 is treated as the threshold value or poverty cutoff, by which we can understand whether the household is multidimensionally poor or not. Higher deprivation score or higher aggregate deprivation score of the household, that is higher than 33.33, is treated as the multidimensionally poor household. After specification of the multidimensional poor household, say in a particular case, out of total n number of population, Q is the number of multidimensionally poor people. Then we can measure three important measures of the multidimensional poverty index. First one is the multidimensional head count ratio. As in the monetary poverty, here we also measured multidimensional poverty ratio or multidimensional head count ratio, which is actually the ratio of the number of poor people to total people. Here Q is the number of poor people, N is the total population. Therefore, Q by N into 100 equal to percentage of multidimensionally poor people. Along with this multidimensionally poor people, which is denoted by H means multidimensional head count ratio. Here we also measured the intensity of the multidimensional poverty. Intensity of the multidimensional poverty means at what extent poor people are deprived. Therefore, it is the average deprivation score of the poor household. It can be measured by using this formula where A equal to summation of I equal to 1 to Q Cik by Q. Here Q means number of the poor people, whereas summation I equal to 1 to Q Cik means aggregate deprivation score of the poor household. Therefore, A is treated as the average deprivation score of the multidimensionally poor household. And finally, the multidimensional poverty index. It is actually the product of head count ratio and intensity of the poverty. That is, MPI can be expressed as the multiplication of H and A. The product of multidimensional head count ratio and multidimensional intensity of poverty is the multidimensional poverty index. Each of the indicators is also attached with the different deprivation cutoff that we have mentioned earlier. Here we have considered a hypothetical data. I say for the information of the three household 1, household 2 and household 3. This is the information of the deprivation, or we can treat as a deprivation matrix of the three household along with their specific dimensions and indicators. And each of the dimensions and indicators also attached with the weight. Therefore, on the basis of this information, we can able to calculate the aggregate deprivation score of the household 1 by multiplying this weight into the deprivation score of the household 1. Here weights are expressed in percentage term. 1 by 6 means 16.67 and 1 by 18 means 5.556. After multiplying this weight into the deprivation of the household 1, we can aggregate the deprivation of the household 1. The aggregate deprivation score of the household 1 is 44.4, for household 2 is 66.7 and for household 3 is 22.8. Now we considered the poverty cutoff, that is multidimensional poverty line or multidimensional poverty cutoff, which is 33.33. If the aggregate deprivation score is higher than 33.33, then we can say that the household is multidimensionally poor. Among these three score 44.4, 66.7 and 22.2, first two is higher than the 33.33. Therefore, these two household 1 and household 2 are treated as the multidimensionally poor household, whereas the aggregate deprivation score of household 3 is less than 33.33, which is actually 22.2. Therefore, household 3 is not multidimensionally deprived, which is mentioned here by yes, and no. Yes means the household is multidimensionally deprived. And the last row is the number of members or household size of this particular household. Here the size of the household 1 is 4, number of members of household 2 is 5 and number of members of household 3 is 4. On the basis of this available information, we are able to measure three important index of the multidimensional poverty. First of the head count ratio. How you can measure the head count ratio? The head count ratio is actually the ratio of the number of poor people to total people. In my hypothetical example, total population is 4 plus 5 plus 4, that is 13, and number of multidimensionally poor people are 4 plus 5. Therefore, 9 by 13, 9 is the multidimensionally poor people and 13 is the total people. 9 by 13 is the multidimensionally head count ratio. In percentage term, it is 69.2. In my hypothetical data, multidimensional head count ratio is 69.3. Similarly, we can measure the multidimensional intensity of the poverty, which is the weighted deprivation, average deprivation score of multidimensional poor people. Here 9 is the multidimensional poor people and 4 into 44.4 means 44.4 is the aggregate deprivation score of the first household, which is multidimensionally 4. Its size is 4. In case of second household, the average deprivation aggregate deprivation score is 66.7, and the number of members or size of the second household is 5. Therefore, after calculating this, we can find the aggregate average deprivation score of the poor household, which is 56.8. Therefore, the value of A is 56.8 in percentage term. But MPI is the product of H and A, where H and A both are considered not in the percentage term, rather in the actual value. Therefore, MPI equal to the product of H and A, and which is equal to 0.39. It has no units. It is only the index measure. Therefore, 0.39 is the value of MPI in this hypothetical data. And now we explain the trends of the multidimensional poverty and deprivation in India. First we consider that status as well as trends of the deprivation across different indicators of the multidimensional poverty. Here we have considered 10 indicators under 3 dimensions: education, health and standard of living. And for each of the indicators, we have calculated the deprivation score for 3 years: 2005-6, 2015-16 and 2019-21. On the basis of the available information, we are able to understand which indicator is relatively more cost for the high multidimensional poverty index value in our country. Side by side, we can also able to understand the trends of the deprivation across different indicators. Here, deprivation means the percentage of deprived people in a particular indicator. Among these 10 indicators, the level of deprivation, that is percentage share of deprived people, was relatively high in 2005-6 for the indicator cooking fuel, where 73.7% people were deprived, followed by sanitation indicators, where the percentage of deprived people was 69.4. And then next one is nutrition, where percentage of deprived people was 59.3%. Over time, the percentage of deprived people gradually decreasing irrespective of indicators. That is, percentage share of deprived people decreased in all the indicators during 2005-6 to 2019-21. In case of asset dimension, it decreased from 46.6% to 10.1%. Whereas in case of cooking fuel, it also decreased from 73.7% to 43.6%. In case of sanitation, it also significantly decreased from 69.4% to 29.2%. But this figure also implies that even in the year 2019-21, there were 29% people in our country without having proper sanitation facilities. This is the serious concern in our country in India, that is the percentage of malnourished people. Their share also decreased from 59% to 34.8%, but still now 34.8% people are malnourished in our country. But the level of deprivation significantly decreased in education dimension, both in schooling as well as school attendance. Now we explain the trends of the measurement of the multidimensional poverty, specifically headcount ratio, intensity of the poverty and multidimensional poverty index. The headcount ratio decreased from 55.8% to 28.4% in 2015-16 and further to 16.8% in 2019-21. Similarly, intensity of poverty also decreased in India. As a result, the MPI, which is actually the product of H and A, also decreased in India from 0.284 to 0.007. If we try to compare between rural and urban areas in our country, then obviously the urban multidimensional poverty index is relatively lower compared to the rural multidimensional poverty index. That is, rural people are much more multidimensionally poor compared to the urban people. In case of rural India, multidimensional poverty also decreased from 69.7% to 21.9%. Side by side, the percentage of multidimensional poor people in urban India also decreased from 24.8% to 5.6%. But the gap between rural and urban also narrowed down. On the basis of the trend of the multidimensional poverty in respect of the headcount ratio, intensity of poverty, and multidimensional poverty index, we can argue that though the multidimensional poverty has declined in rural areas, the contribution to MPI is relatively high and it increased over time. That is, multidimensional poor are mainly concentrated in the rural areas. Now we can consider the multidimensional poverty index across different countries of the world. In the latest year 2021, Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative able to measure the multidimensional poverty of as many as 111 countries. But the number of years of the measurement are not the same. Number of years varies from one country to another country. And in this table here we have presented the multidimensional poverty index as well as multidimensional headcount ratio, and there is the wide variation of the multidimensional poverty index as well as multidimensional headcount ratio. On the basis of this information of the multidimensional poverty or status of the multidimensional poverty across the countries, the following features are important. Multidimensional poverty was relatively high in Niger, South Sudan, Burkina Faso, Chad, African Republic, whereas more than 80% people were multidimensionally poor. Side by side, the countries like Jordan, Argentina, Kyrgyzstan, North Macedonia, Georgia, etc., they have managed to overcome their multidimensional poverty, and their multidimensional headcount ratio is nearly 0.05%. That is, these countries are able to overcome multidimensional poverty. Among the Indian neighboring countries, the multidimensional poverty is relatively high in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Myanmar, Bhutan, and Nepal, and two other neighboring countries like China and Sri Lanka have lower multidimensional poverty index compared to India. That is, in this module, we have discussed the concept of the measurement of the multidimensional poverty that was developed by Alkire and Foster. Side by side, we have also observed the trend of multidimensional poverty in India as well as the status of multidimensional poverty in comparison to other countries. This measurement of the multidimensional poverty is better compared to the other measurement because this measurement is based on the capability approach, and this measurement directly reflects the well-being of the people. But the major problem of this multidimensional poverty index is that availability of the data. Due to unavailability of the data, multidimensional poverty index is only measurable for 111 countries, not for the other countries. Therefore, we can suggest that the more and more information for other countries, if available, then we can able to measure the multidimensional poverty index and able to measure the status of the multidimensional poverty across the countries. Thank you.